Hey guys, this is Hetu and welcome back to etlqalabs. So guys, today I'm taking this very important question because people who are in non-IT background are people who are not working into testing field, right? So this question is more related to those people who are actually going to start career into testing or even in ETL testing, right? So this is very important to understand, right? Because at a time in interviews, sometime people might ask you what are the different type of testing that you have done, or if you have not done even, like they would like to understand what different areas of the testing that we do generally in industry, right? So it's not very easy to you know just count on fingers like how many different type of testing, but majority of the testing I have already covered. Like these are the testing that actually we do in industry in the real time, and there will be other which are still like we don't they're not very popular, right? Or I would say they're not very much exercised in the companies, right? So what I have done is I have actually tried to put in three different categories that will be really helpful for you to actually understand why they are in three different categories, right? So the first one is basically the manual testing or the functional testing. Second one is the non-functional testing, and the third one is the automation testing, right? So this is how I have categorized, and you see that what are the different type of testing that we are doing actually in manual and automation and also non-functional, right? So having this view will really help you answer the question, and also to understand the wide spectrum of the testing that we do basically, right? It's not just we do only we have only automation testing, or we have only web-based testing or ETL testing, whatever, right? There are so many different type of testing can be categorized, isn't it? So that's the reason I thought that this video will be really very helpful for all of you, and it's a good to know, right? I mean, many people who are working in even in the in industry for 2 3 years, for example, they are not aware of all those different type of testing because they have never worked, right? They have never had the exposure, right? So that's the reason I thought it will be helpful. So let's start with this, guys, and then try to understand, right? So as I said, the first one is the manual testing, or we also called as a functional testing, right? Because what we do basically, we do not utilize any tool for the testing, right? So in manual testing, manual means basically we uh, without employing any tool, we are actually testing the application. For example, let's say we have one application, for example, www.makemytrip.com, right? This is one of the web application or even the mobile application. So what we do is basically we want to test this particular application, right? What we will do is we actually check each and every functionality like searching a flight is working, searching a hotel is working based on the given search criteria, and then you are able to actually proceed with booking the room or booking the flight, pay and payment gateway, etc. So end-to-end functionality is working or not. This is what actually we do. And how we test it, basically we actually navigate manually, uh, interacting with the web page and make sure that everything is working, the entire flow is working, right? So that is nothing but the functional testing, because actually you are testing the functionality of the application, right? That's why they are called functional. Many times people call it manual testing also, right? So when you get a job, like I mean, when you might get the job description, right? There might be like manual testing or functional testing. They can use these words interchangeably, so don't worry too much about it, right? But under manual testing or under functional testing, not I would say functional testing, rather it should be manual testing. I would say functional testing. One second, control G. I mean, leave it, guys. This is fine, right? So functional testing. Under this manual testing, what we all consider is like application testing. So as I said, we have one application. For example, Make My Trip, which is actually on web. So you actually open the Chrome, any browser, and then you just type makemytrip.com. You open up that application and you start testing it, right? Each and every module. So that is what the the application, right? That is nothing but application. Similarly, there will be so many other applications, right? Similar to on the web. So those testing those applications functionality is called application testing. As I said, they are all manual, right? Because we are not using any tool for now, right? Then mobile testing. The same application, Make My Trip, you have a mobile app as well, right? Testing on mobile, whether it is working fine on mobile, you are able to, perform all the functions, what you are actually able to do on web or what it is intended to do. Because on mobile there will be different menus, there will be different logos, etc. Right? So all those different differences will be there, right? So that should be based on the requirement specification anyways. But the idea is whether functionality is working fine or not, right? So that is nothing but the mobile testing, mobile apps, testing the mobile apps. And now again, in mobile testing, guys, there could be requirement that it should work also on iOS and also on Android, right? So these two major platform, two operating system also we should be able to support, right? So as part of mobile testing, you would like to actually choose 2 to 3 different mobile types, right? Android or iOS or some other, right? And those should be working fine, Windows, etc., right? So that is part of your mobile testing. Now, testing the application. So, for example, this application testing, it is not only testing on one browser, let's say Chrome browser, but you might also need to test whether it is working on Internet Explorer, or maybe Firefox, Safari, and all those other browsers also. This particular application should work, right? Because many times it doesn't work. So make sure that we are actually testing all these applications. So because mm, um, I mean, customer can actually choose any browser to actually access your application, right? Application URL. So it should be working, right? Again, I mean, if something is not working on any browser, then you have to specifically mention, right? It will not work on, let's say, Safari or Opera, whatever, right? But then ideally it should work. It should not give any surprises, right? So this is what. And why manual testing, guys? Because we are not using any tool to do the testing. Rather, we are actually manually testing. Huh? So, and the third one is basically database or data warehousing testing, right? And this is the area where we actually talk more about in our channel, right? Because the channel is very specific for ETL testing, database, data warehousing testing, right? So you all know that how to do this testing, right? Why I'm categorizing this as a manual testing? Because majority of the time basically we use the manual testing here, because we do not use any automated tool which basically runs entire shoot and give you the result, right? It is partially automated sometime, because we use, let's say, Python or Linux scripting to do certain checks, right? But I mean, majority portion is still like we are doing the manual testing here, because you are actually writing the query, running on one database, another database, checking, data from the Linux boxes, etc. Right? So all those things, right? That's the reason it is called as a manual testing. We actually fire the query and run and check it, right? That's why database testing, data warehouse testing, ETL testing, all of them are mostly the same stuff, right? I mean, it's just that the different type of testing, different things that we test here, different scenario we test it here, but these are all manual testing, all right? Now the API or web service testing, this is very important. I haven't talked about the API testing, guys, but this is one of the very popular topic, not topic, I would say, a very popular testing that is basically required in industry. Probably I will do some videos soon, and we will actually we'll cover some API testing. You might have faced some interview question related to API testing, because this is very important, right? Not nowadays. I think 3 to 5 years since long, 3 to 5 years. I think this is getting more popular, because majority of the interfaces or majority of the functionality is web-based or the API driven, right? So we will do some videos on this, and I'll make sure that we are covering on our channel, right? So that you will also uh, you can also learn it from here. But this is also a kind of manual testing, because we do not use the direct tool here, right? So that's why we are actually calling it manual testing. Hope you get the idea, because everything that we do, we are not using any tool to do the testing, rather than we actually do the manual efforts to test it, yeah, one by one, right? Now, the second case is basically automated testing. So the same thing that we were actually doing the manually, we can also do using automation testing. So what does it mean by automation testing? Basically, we run one automation suite, or we run one automation script which will actually test majority of the functionality and give you the result. Okay, let's say 20 test cases are there. It will run all the 20 test cases and give you result. Okay, if there is any failure, then it will report you. Otherwise, it will say all pass, right? So it will give you nice report, and it will say you everything is working. You see that this automation testing is very, very helpful when you have to do lot of regression testing. Within regression testing, you don't even have lot of time to do the regression testing, especially when you are actually doing the releases before release, or during the release. If you want to actually want to do some sort of testing, then you can actually run that regression suite after release, just to make sure everything is working fine after post deployment, etc. Or when you have the frequent changes in your build, that point of time also you would like to make sure that there is nothing breaking. So on those cases, automation testing is very, very helpful, because you don't have too much time to do the manual testing and verify the things. So that's the reason it's important. Now again, what we will do is, we have actually automation testing. We can do the automation testing in all the areas. For example, web automation testing. What we called here is basically the application testing, right? Within application testing, this is manual test cases. Let's say 20 test cases manually we are running. We can actually pretty much do the automation and run all of them using web automation testing, or using Selenium, Cucumber, Cypress, Play. These are the basically different tools which will actually help you automate all those manual test cases. So what will happen is, basically once you are done with automation, it's very easy for people to actually run the test cases. Obviously, the new test cases are the new functionality. You can't have the automation, but then the one which we always do the testing, regression testing, making sure the things are working fine, those can be part of your automation testing, right? So all the functional testing which we do manually can be automated here using the web automation, right? Second one is the API automation. So what we talked about here is, you see the web API, API testing, right? That we do web service testing. The same can be actually automated using REST assured framework. You see here the REST assured. This is with Selenium, plus there are some libraries from the REST assured that you can actually use, and you can automate all those request and response, right? So this is API. And also normally what we do the test as part of our testing, in manual testing, we use Postman and SOAP tool. The Postman is one of the most popular tool for doing the API testing manually. At the same time, little bit of automation can be done using the Postman as well, on the same APIs as well. That when I will be covering the API testing, I'll be actually using the Postman, and I'll show you how do we do the manual testing and also the automation testing, little bit of automation that we can do. But if you want to do the full-fledged automation of API testing, we have to use this REST assured framework or REST assured libraries together together with Selenium to achieve this automation using automation API, right? API automation. Okay, now the third one that I talk about is the mobile testing here. Mobile testing, which is manual here, but the same can be automated using APM tool. It's very similar to Selenium, but this will actually, once you do the automation, you can actually run all those. I mean, see, web automation is different and the mobile automation, because if you want to uh, uh, test the mobile application, you have to use the APM, and to test the web application, which is there on web or web browser, those actually you can use Selenium to automate, right? So this you can do. Now, automation testing, ETL automation, this is very popular one, right? So there is no very formal way of automating ETL, but then you can actually use Python, Linux, ETL tools like Informatica Power Center, which is actually also a development tool, right? You can also use this for reconciliation, right? If you want to do the reconciliation between source and target, you can actually create a mapping where you can actually compare the data from two systems, right? So this is also a way actually you can automate it. So given you are in the testing environment, you can have an dev instance in your machine. You can actually create a testing folder, and that's where you can actually use power of Informatica to do the testing, right? This is also possible. There are some tools nowadays, I think, for example, Query Surge and some other tools like ETL Validator and all. Those tools basically people have come up recently, but I would say those are not very, very popular at the moment. But they can be used, right? But the whole idea is when you know when you are good at the Linux or Python, any of the scripting language, I think it's good that you write your own tool, right? Whatever is required for your project, right? Rather than depending on the query search and other tools, right? Which is also a paid version, right? I think. I'm not very sure. I think I've never used, to be honest, but those are the paid tools as well, and we don't have those flexibility to pay the money and get the tools for the testing. As part of as part of the test QA team, you are supposed to write the code to test your applications rather than buying a tool. Nowadays, uh, actually, all the companies are actually running towards reducing the cost. So you will not have that leverage to actually buy the licenses for the external tools, right? So that's the reason it's important. And I have covered some of the videos for Python, specifically pandas, right? That's where you can use it. But then you can also use Linux, you can use some other tools wherever you see, right? So all those things are there. Now, this is all about automation testing. So what I wanted to say, guys, the same thing that you can actually do in manual testing. If you are skilled, then you can actually also run the automation, or you can create the automation. And now industry trend is like people want you to know the automation, right? That is the reason I have even started some session on Java as well, and I thought that I will do some Selenium videos. So later or sooner we will do that as well. But I'm saying if you have the automation skills on top of your ETL skills, then I think there are very, very good prospect of your future career, right? So it's important that we also learn automation and we talk automation, right? I mean, if you're talking about ETL automation, you just talk about, you can actually do the automation using Python pandas or Linux scripting. There are few checks that you can do on the files, etc. Right? So all those things you can talk about it. You can also talk about whether you can use the Informatica Power Center. That's the reason if you go to my Informatica section, I have covered some transformations and some basic validation, etc. Those are the things that you can also use for testing. Those are for the development purpose, but then you can also use the similar kind of, mapping creation, etc., for your data validation or for your testing, right? And so, yeah, so this is all about automation testing. And then the third category is basically that I'm saying is the non-functional testing, guys. So non-functional testing, it's also very important from the overall infrastructure point of view, from the scalability point of view, from the huge user base point of view, right? So what basically we do is generally in ETL, if you see there are loads which actually takes a lot of time to load the data. Like you have the huge files coming from the source system, and to process that particular source, it takes a couple of hours even for some ETLs, like 20 gigs of data if you want to load. I think it will take 1 hour, 2 hours, something like that, right? It's very important that we also do the load testing on all our ETL jobs, because the turnaround time, we want to actually based on this load testing, we want to make sure that we are well within our timeline, because when the data is required on the SLA, if you are not able to hit, then there is issue, right? That's the reason it's important that we know the what is load testing. So load testing um, is kind of making sure that within the high load how your system behaves, right? What are the parameters, etc. So there are tools like load runner. This is one of the very old tool and is still being used. This is licensed tool. And then we have also the Apache JMeter. I think this is free tool from Apache Foundation. I think you can use this as well. I haven't used JMeter very extensively, but I have used load runner in my uh, beginning of my career, right? A very popular tool, right? So here you have the flexibility to actually increase the load. How many are, you can also actually reduce the resources here, right? So how many users, let's say you want to bump it, let's say 1,000 users in every 2 seconds, if you want to bump it and test it, how it working in those kind of scenarios. And then these tools are very excellent tools, right? I mean, it's not feasible for to do it manually. That's the reason non-functional testing is mostly automated. Okay. Now, stress testing, very similar. Stress testing, what we do basically here is we actually try to put unusual load here, which is not at all expected, and we see that the system is gracefully able to handle. Our system is gracefully giving you warnings, etc. if need to, but it should not crash. The idea is it should not crash, and load testing is basically to check under increased load how your system is behaving and what is the peak where actually after that the performance it started getting degraded, right? So that is the point we want to find out here. But under stress testing we actually put unusual load and see that the system is still able to manage those load, and it's not actually crashing or something. It's gracefully able to give you the correct response, or is there any issue. Now the third point is third type of security non-functional is security testing, where actually you want to test whether your data or your application is secure enough, like there is no threat for hacking, or there is no other malicious attack. I mean, all those kind of security testing we can do, and we to do this we use the Sonar Cube. This is one of the automation tool that we use, right? So the other different three different category of testing, and in industry we normally use any of these kind of things, right? The non-functional we need special a special team probably, because this has nothing to do with functionality, more of checking the infrastructures uh, from the infrastructure point of view, or from the what do you say, uh, nothing to do functionalities, guys, right? So that's the reason normally there is a separate team. Normally the dev team or other people can actually help it, but there are people who actually do in testing also, this non-functional testing, load testing, etc. JMeter, but good to know this as well. Yeah. Now what I wanted to say is that all the testing that we do everywhere across the industries, you will find some are somewhere in the falling into these categories, right? Three categories: functional, non-functional, and automation. Okay, and this is kind of important thing that I wanted to cover. Hopefully, this video will give you a different perspective, and you will be able to understand going forward. You will be able to understand and appreciate the different type of testing that is there in the industry. And tomorrow when you go and join any kind of team, then you will be able to actually differentiate actually where you are falling, right? Some people who actually know only manual testing, if when those people are actually put into let's say mobile testing, then they will think that from where all these things are there. So that's the reason it will give it will open up your perspective to understand and appreciate, different type of testing that we do in companies across the companies, right? There will be some very specific testing, let's say localization testing or compatibility testing, for example. compatibility testing where we actually try to test one particular application on different browsers, so browser compatibility testing and all those things. Those are kind of, again, you do the same thing, it's just different name. But so I'm not going to talk about them. But if you see that these are the majority are the most important testing, the OBS testing types that we actually use in any project. Okay, so that's all, guys. I thought that this will be helpful. So I did this video. Do let me know if you want to know anything, any specific thing. Sorry, any questions, right? Send your comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends, guys. All right. So until we meet next time, happy learning. God bless you. Bye.